The Ravens have some major decisions to make, and some things happening in the league are changing those decisions. Now, some of these decisions could wait till next offseason. Some need to be made within the next 3 weeks. So we'll start there. The players who are eligible for their 5th-year option, that needs to be picked up by May 2nd. So we're about 3.5, 4 weeks away from the Ravens having to make that decision. And it is a big decision because they have Tyler Linderbaum and Kyle Hamilton up for that 5th-year option. Last offseason, we picked up Odafe Oweh's 5th-year option, and he is now playing on that 5th-year option right now this year. And he'll be another decision that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But I wanted to start with the immediate decisions that are coming in the next few weeks. Now, the Ravens could obviously work an extension done with Tyler Linderbaum or Kyle Hamilton and not pick up the 5th-year option. They could pick up the 5th-year option and buy them some time. I think that may be the route for Kyle Hamilton. His 5th-year option is going to cost $18.6 million. But Tyler Linderbaum's is going to cost $23.4 million because it's grouped in with all the offensive linemen and not just the centers. So that's the real decision. I think Kyle Hamilton's pretty easy. Maybe try and work out an extension with both of these guys, obviously. But if you can't agree on an extension, you can safely pick up Kyle Hamilton for $18.6 million next year and continue to work on that extension. And at least you got Kyle Hamilton locked up in his 5th year. He's not going anywhere. And I do want to say I don't expect either of these guys to go anywhere, but the Tyler Linderbaum decision is a real dilemma. Because most likely, unless it's just to buy time, you don't pick up that 5th-year option. I mean, there's no center in the league that even makes over $20 million. You're not going to pick up Linderbaum's option for $23 million. The highest paid center is Creed Humphrey, who makes $18 million a year. The next is $14 million a year, and there's obviously a drop-off there. Tyler Linderbaum is probably going to get similar money to Creed Humphrey, I would imagine, if not more. But I don't think it'll be $23 million, so I do not see the Ravens picking up Tyler Linderbaum's 5th-year option. I don't think it would be weird to pick up Kyle Hamilton and not Tyler Linderbaum. And if they do pick up Tyler Linderbaum's as well, then that kind of just tells me they're really just buying time. But I don't think they're picking it up. So the Linderbaum situation is kind of pressing. I think that extension needs to get done this offseason, definitely before the regular season starts, unless they want to negotiate during the regular season. But Tyler Linderbaum will be set to hit free agency next year then. And then who knows what he makes. I don't think the Ravens are going to let him walk. But there is a decision there because that 5th-year option is in the stratosphere. It's all the offensive linemen combined, so it ends up being $23 million. Same with the franchise tag. Same rules apply. So the Ravens would have no problem picking up Kyle Hamilton's or franchise tagging him, but you're not going to do that with Tyler Linderbaum. It's just too much. So there is a bit of pressure to get an extension done really soon. I don't think that you want to let Tyler Linderbaum hit free agency next year. And if you don't pick up the 5th-year option by May 2nd, he's set to hit free agency next year. So there is a decision to be made. My prediction is he's not going anywhere. I think they'll figure it out. But it is something to talk about. It's something to keep an eye on because May 2nd's coming quick. That is right around the corner. And the Ravens are going to have to decide, are we picking up the 5th-year option on Kyle Hamilton or Tyler Linderbaum? Now, like I said, I do expect them to pick up Kyle Hamilton's 5th-year option, which comes in cheaper than the top of the safety market. If you look at the safety money, Winfield makes the most at $21 million, Derwin James, $19 million, Minkah Fitzpatrick, $18 million, Budda Baker, $18 million. Kyle Hamilton is most likely going to reset the safety market and get higher than all of those contracts. So why wouldn't you pick up the 5th-year option for $18 million? You obviously would want to get an extension done as soon as possible, but it does make sense to pick up that 5th-year option because he's going to be cheaper. And then hopefully we get these extensions done ASAP. But even if this did drag into next year or even the year after, let's say they're not able to come to terms early, then the Ravens can also franchise tag Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton's going to reset the entire safety market. So franchise tagging and the 5th-year option is going to be cheaper than the yearly average we would have to pay him on the deal. So the Ravens could take their time with Kyle Hamilton. I don't want that to happen. Let's lock him up. We could spread the money around and have a lower cap hit and free up some money next year and stuff like that. And it's nice for Kyle to have security. It's nice for the Ravens to know that they have him locked up. I definitely don't see him going anywhere. but it just makes a little bit more sense to play that game if they need to with Kyle Hamilton. Hey, we'll pick up your 5th-year option. You can play on that next year. If we still can't get a deal done, we'll franchise tag you because it's all cheaper. But the Tyler Linderbaum, since the centers are grouped in with the offensive line and it's not just center money, that's a much bigger decision because the Ravens are not franchise tagging Tyler Linderbaum and probably will not pick up the 5th-year option. So get this extension done with Tyler Linderbaum ASAP. Now, the next big decision is going to be this tight end room. We've talked about this tight end room, how they're all in the last year of their contract. Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kolar. What's going to happen with Likely because these tight end contracts just went kind of crazy. Trey McBride just reset the tight end market with $19 million per year. You got Travis Kelce at $17 a year, Hockenson at $16 a year, Kittle at $15 a year, Mark Andrews at $14 a year. These are all older tight ends outside of Trey McBride. So Trey McBride, being that young tight end, first one to get his second contract, getting $19 million per year, does reset the tight end market. That's the highest tight end contract in NFL history. So what does Isaiah Likely's contract look like? And this has a lot of different variables to it because Isaiah Likely is obviously not used as much as a Trey McBride. Trey McBride is one of the main weapons on the Cardinals. He starts, he plays the majority of the snaps. Isaiah Likely has a ton of talent, in my opinion, could rival a Trey McBride when it comes to production if given the opportunity, but hasn't been given all of that playing time. You know, he still had Mark Andrews there. We've seen Isaiah Likely go off in flashes, but hasn't put together 1,000-yard season and 10 touchdowns. You know, that hasn't happened because he's not starting. So does that suppress Likely's number then next offseason if he stays in that same role? And is that what the Ravens actually want? That's a really interesting thought because as far as we know, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely are both going to be on the team, right? And Charlie Kolar. But Charlie Kolar, I think, would be a much lower deal, so we're not as worried about that. Mark Andrews, most of us assume that the Ravens will just move on from him next year if he plays for us this season. This probably would be the last season. And the next big tight end deal that we're going to give is going to be Isaiah Likely. If Isaiah Likely is in a suppressed role again, like he has been, you know, Mark Andrews, I know we say Isaiah Likely can be tight end one, but Mark Andrews is the one getting all the touchdowns and getting a little bit more playing time. So if that continues, that would naturally suppress Isaiah Likely's numbers, right? He can't come in at even close to a $19 million because he was never used as a starting tight end. So like when he goes to negotiate, his numbers just aren't even there. And the Ravens are like, hey, we're going to offer you 10 because you haven't really shown it, even though we know what you can do. Is that what the Ravens are going to do? Or does Isaiah Likely kind of play hardball, put his foot down and be like, listen, everyone knows how talented I am. And I need 15, 16 million, 17 million, closer to the top tight end market? Or does Likely not have that leverage? I would say right now he doesn't have that leverage because the Ravens don't play him enough to have that leverage. This year is going to be very interesting of who plays more. I've been saying that I want Isaiah Likely to play more. I think he's rising. I think his chemistry with Lamar is great. I know it might not be exactly what Lamar and Andrews' connection is, but Isaiah Likely's a weapon, man. He's a jump ball guy. He's a separator. He really can do it all. So I would like to see Likely be our tight end one. And then if we do have Mark Andrews on the roster, Mark's still a great player too. I'm not saying bench Mark. I think Mark can still be out there, can still be a huge red zone threat, but Likely is a little bit more of a weapon right now. And I'd like to see more of him. But how does that look this year? How much? What's the snap percentage per game for Likely and Andrews? And then at the end of the year, how does that affect the contract negotiations? You know, because Likely, if they don't play him a lot, might be kind of pissed off. You know, because he can't go out there and demand top tight end money because he hasn't produced as a top tight end. So it's kind of a big decision that the Ravens have to make of how much playing time are we going to play these guys? Is it contract related or is it just who's the best player? It should be who's the best player. We're trying to win a Super Bowl. Forget the contracts. But they don't forget the contracts. It's not just the Ravens, it's the NFL. This is how teams operate. It's a business. They're thinking about the contracts, trust me. They are looking at next year's free agents, thinking about how much are we going to have to pay this guy? What's the market looking like? They're assessing all of that. So this is definitely on their mind. And I think it would be probably in the team's best interest to get Isaiah Likely locked up now. Kind of like Rashad Bateman, right? Rashad Bateman, in my opinion, has already priced out his contract. He's already beat, I think, $6 million a year is what he got. I mean, there's receivers out there. There's wide receiver 2s and 3s getting $20 million a year. Rashad Bateman is worth way more than $6 million a year. Just proved it last year. But guess what? The Ravens did the deal when he didn't have a ton of leverage. Isaiah Likely, from a talent standpoint, has a ton of leverage. And he can say, this is what I'm going to bring. I'm a great player. But the numbers aren't backing it up because he's not getting enough playing time. So the Ravens probably would like to extend Likely. Likely's probably hoping that he gets more playing time this year, balls out, has a breakout year compared to his other years, and then can go into next offseason with some leverage to be like, hey, whether it's the Ravens or whoever, the price went higher. I balled out this year. My worth. I'm not going to be cheap. So how do the Ravens play this? What's the playing time look like? And how much does Isaiah Likely get next offseason? How much does a Mark Andrews, who's going to be 31, how much does he get next offseason? And then the final major contract decision the Ravens are facing, and we've talked about this a little bit this offseason, is Odafe Oweh. Do you try and extend him now? Do you let him play this out? Or are the Ravens just planning on moving on? Because that is going to be a very, very expensive contract. If you look at the edge rushers contracts, I mean, you got Myles Garrett coming in at $40 million, Danielle Hunter, $35 million, Max Crosby, $35 million, Nick Bosa, $34 million, TJ Watt, $28 million. I know Oweh isn't those guys, but he is in the Josh Sweat, Rousseau, Rashawn Gary, Montez Sweat. They're making $20 to $24 million a year. Oweh probably is in that class, especially next season. And he's playing on his 5th-year option right now, and I highly doubt the Ravens would franchise tag him next year. So either they're going to extend him, they're going to pay him next offseason, or they're just going to let him walk like they did with Zadarius Smith, like they did with Matt Judon, like they did back in the day with your Donnell Ellerbys and Paul Krugers. I mean, the Ravens are notorious for letting a pass rusher kind of develop, and if you're not that Terrell Suggs type guy, you're gone. We let him walk. And my prediction is probably that. Looking at Kyle Hamilton's contract, looking at Tyler Linderbaum's contract, we got a lot of people to pay. Do the Ravens have enough to pay Oweh $20+ million and commit long term? I don't know. I don't see it. I want Oweh here. I do like Oweh. We need pass rush help. I think it puts that much pressure on the Ravens getting an edge early in this draft. The Ravens need edge help because especially if they let Oweh walk next offseason, we are very thin at edge. We got a lot of question marks, a lot of young guys that have not stepped up yet, and Van Noy's on his way out. I don't think the Ravens are looking good from a pass rush standpoint. They're looking okay this year right now, but looking forward after this season, they are not looking good. So what do the Ravens do with Oweh? The pass rush contracts are insane. And I know he's not $40 million, but he's going to slot in the low 20s. He will, and he's probably going to have his best season this season. He just had a 10-sack season last season. We saw a leap from Oweh from just a skill standpoint. He's always brought the athleticism, but I thought he was really strategically using pass rush moves and really thinking his way to get to the quarterback, and improved a lot in that area with adding skill to the athleticism and getting home to the quarterback. I think that's why he got 10 sacks last year. He's getting better year after year. I think Oweh is going to get more than 10 sacks this year, which really makes that price go up. So a lot of interesting things to think about. The more pressing decision is going to be Tyler Linderbaum and Kyle Hamilton, but I expect them to just pick up Kyle's 5th-year option. Tyler Linderbaum is a big decision. So I really just wanted to come on here, kind of vent my thoughts, and see what you guys are thinking too, man, because I don't have the answers to this. I just am laying out the situation, and trying to think through what the Ravens might do, looking at the contract numbers, because it's easy to say, oh, they're going to pick up Kyle, fifth-year option. They're going to pick up Linderbaum's fifth-year option. But when you look at the numbers, it's like they're probably not picking up Tyler Linderbaum's fifth-year option. I mean, $23 million is way higher than any center in the league, way higher, because it's grouped as offensive linemen as a whole. So definitely something to consider. The Ravens have a lot to decide, and some of those decisions need to come within the next 3 to 4 weeks. Let me know what you guys are thinking about all of this. Appreciate you, as always, for tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll let the greatest linebacker in the history of the game take us out.
Ravens Flock. The Flock Rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. The Flock Rundown. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.